which is the government preferred way of referring to business communication. But generally, I always say that one of the things that you must always bear in mind is that governments conduct business. And that is something the public servants really need to basically focus on. Because if you are conducting a business, and I'm sure some of you here attend to your business, some of you run businesses, or you have family members who run businesses. I don't think there's anyone who runs a business and is so happy when there's a loss. The question we need to ask is, if we are so happy with our businesses making profit, then why aren't we looking for ways to ensure that the government, our employer, makes profit? In terms of, and profit is not how many shillings and cents we made above that. It's not how many people got ideas, but how much business did we generate generally. So you are able to look at the role of meetings, and there are as many as you can obviously imagine. I believe some of you were able to come up with more roles of meetings than was given in the PowerPoint presentations. But most of all, I'd like underscoring the most important thing is that meetings are about decision making. But the most important thing is meetings are about using the knowledge and experience of those who are in that meeting in order to provide direction, in order to take the organization to the next level, to the next step. And apart from that, meetings are also very key in terms of even ensuring that everybody comes on board and is part of even decision making. Because one of the challenges is that when people don't feel they are part and parcel of a meeting, they may generally feel like it's not basically what is expected of them. And they may begin to think that this is a place for me to just get my salary. How they think, how they work, it's up to them. So the onus is on managers to be able to look at meetings as a way of ensuring that everybody is able to contribute, everybody is able to give up regular updates, make credible decisions, consult widely. But most of all, meetings are about also you doing your own background research in terms of trying to see which are the best approaches, decisions that we need to make about an issue. The word research has actually, obviously it's embraced, it's part of academic learning, but the word, what we call, if you remember your teachers taught you, the prefix re is what we call recursive. It has that connotation of again and again. Search means in English, look for. Actually, people forget that English, like all our languages, has...
Close the door after you're done.
Sorry? Somebody's speaking. That's fine. I think we can continue. I think I was able to mute. Yes. Yeah. So as we continue, the most important thing is just to emphasize that when it comes to official meetings, we are not talking about formal and informal meetings. As I began this discussion, we are talking about the level of formality. So basically here we are talking about formal meetings and the less formal, and you are able to see why we categorize those that are formal and why the others are less formal. The others are less formal because sometimes the attendance may be limited to people who are working on a particular issue. Timings may vary. Maybe even issues about notice may not be what people may consider adequate because of the urgency or nature of the issue under discussion, and so on. So for the rest, they are strictly governed. For the formal meetings, they are strictly governed by certain regulations that ensure that even only the people who are designated to attend, only the business at hand as indicated in the agenda must be discussed, and so on and so forth. So I believe that that was something that you gathered very well. You also looked at the concepts, the underlying concepts on which meetings are anchored, the 9 components of meetings, which was something put together by faculty who have taught this course when it was then the Kenya Institute of Administration and the Kenya School of Government. And basically, you'll agree with me, the 9 components of meetings are basically the key things that ensure that a meeting can be conducted and that it can be actually be deemed to be successful. So meetings must have a purpose. They must have the right people. The venue is important. A place where people don't get distracted. Timing is important. Like we were discussing with my class yesterday that, you know, you have a meeting during the day, maybe 10 to 12, and then somebody calls and says, can we have a quick meeting at around 7? And I give them an example of a friend of mine who told me that she had 2 official meetings on Saturday, 10 to 12. And then the boss said, I think we need to have another meeting 7 to 9. Obviously, it was not something that everyone was happy about, but I think that's why somebody sent this message around in WhatsApp in terms of we need to be very careful about delegating tasks at night and even when employees are meant to be actually on rest. The other school of thoughts, and usually the 5 Ps keep changing depending on who posts what on the internet. But generally, the most important thing about the 5 Ps is power. The people you invite for the meeting must have the authority to make decisions. So it's not about just bringing people on board so that you have quorum. It's about having people who can also give credibility to the meeting because of their job designations and because the decisions they made will actually be deemed to be sound because of the authority they derive because of their job designation. Then the 3 Cs, like the 5 Ps, also has its own challenges in terms of who considers which C is important. But over time, convening has been very important for this school of thought. In other words, how do you convene? How do you call a meeting together? That is very important. So when you just tell me in a forum like this, oh, can we have a meeting? Maybe will 8 be okay? That I may accept or agree to attend to that meeting because you are my boss, or because the issue, maybe I don't want to make my colleague feel like this issue is dragging for too long. The question is, how do you call that meeting? How do you call people together? Who do you call people together? The aspect of constituting, how is the makeup of the meeting done? How is it conducted, and so on. So I do believe you will agree with the key characteristics of meetings, and I believe you can come up with many that were not necessarily given in your PowerPoint presentations. And I know if we had time, like we normally do in class, people normally even pinpoint very many challenges or ways of identifying meetings that are ineffective. And one of the biggest challenges for us that we have been able to point out over the years is lack of preparedness, which is very important for every person attending the meeting. Many people believe the chair is the one that's supposed to be prepared, but the onus is on everybody. The other challenge that has been there is lack of adequate information. And you know, without adequate information, you can't make decisions. And some of these things, like now when we find senior people asking their juniors to represent them in meetings, I remember one participant sharing that he was so embarrassed because even the chair of that meeting asked him then, why did you come if you don't know? So he discovered that his boss had sent him for that meeting, knowing very well that the person would be embarrassed because there was no brief, no anything. So those are some of the key issues that we continue to face. But this session, like all the others, is supposed to help us create a mass of people who understand government a little bit better and are willing to improve on what has been there, what we found, so that even by the time we retire, we leave the public service better than we found it. The key areas in terms of meetings are the stages or steps in what is called the meeting process. Some writers call it the meeting procedure. And most people, this was actually an idea proposed by somebody called Professor Sturges in the US in a workshop that was conducted on issues to do with management communication. And in that workshop, they discussed this at length. And one of the most important things is that in that discussion, and which some of you will concur with, is that the main focus was that we normally focus so much on the during meeting stage or step, but in reality, meetings begin before the meeting. And if you don't begin the meeting before the meeting, the during meeting stage and the post-meeting stage will be affected. They also noted that each of the key players are very key. You'll agree with me, just to refer to something I just said, that many people just come for the meeting and expect that the chair is the resource and has everything, and is the chair who will actually guide them in terms of what decisions and so on and so forth. So we are basically trying through this presentation to actually also enlighten you to the fact that everybody who attends a meeting needs to be prepared. And I believe you went through the key considerations for each group of people presented in a meeting: the chair, the secretary, and members, before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. What I would want to emphasize for the chair is that the chair must have a discussion plan. That means before the meeting, the chair must actually look for the relevant information pertaining to that agenda. If they are not familiar with that information, they need to read up on it. So that they need to consult even colleagues or others who may have worked on the issue or are experts, so that they come up with a discussion plan. A discussion plan is how are you going to introduce the issue to members? Because to start any discussion, it's important for the chair to introduce the issue. Now, as the leader, as a chair for the meeting, how do you guide this discussion? How do you, as you open up the meeting, what are the key things you'd want them to discuss, so that they don't go off topic, they don't digress? And that's why the discussion plan is important. It also means that you as a chair should have done a lot of reading, consultation, even if you're not sure about the issue. And if necessary, you can even invite somebody in the meeting to brief members, especially on an issue that is historical. But at the end of the day, the onus is on you in terms of guiding the discussion, so that it doesn't overtake the entire meeting, because you are just focusing on what what maybe one person has said, or maybe somebody who goes on and on. Most importantly, the secretary makes all the arrangements, conducting people, logistical arrangements, including sitting arrangements, and also most of all, in terms of refreshments and any other issues that even include transportation. Depending on the type of meeting, especially where you have very senior people, the secretary to this meeting is usually a senior public servant, or even it could be an executive secretary for many of our offices. And this is a person who it may be tasked, depending, especially in the private sector, the executive secretaries are sometimes tasked to prepare the chair's agenda. In government, this is a senior public servant who basically goes through the agenda and provides guidelines or briefing notes to the chair to just bring them up to speed on certain issue. That happens a lot with board and meetings and cabinet and so on. However, the most important thing is that the secretary, like the chair, should be part and parcel of just preparing the agenda, circulating it, and also informing members of any arrangements that the members need to consider. The other very important step is the during meeting stage. Here is where we expect the chair to guide the meeting. A good and successful meeting is where the chair introduces each agenda by giving members a brief stick. They ensure that at the end of the day, people don't digress, but most of all, they are consensus builders in that meeting. The chair is a consensus builder, ensuring that at every agenda, people as far much as possible should agree, but also where there are differing perspectives, the need for compromise is important, then the chair needs to work on that. And there's even a point where the chair may and members may opt to defer issues for further consultation. But the most important thing is to avoid stalemate and ensure that the majority have their say. The most important thing is also for the chair to note that even in a discussion, when people keep saying things more or less the same way, it is usually an indicator that a decision has been arrived at. And as a chair, some writers, experts equate a chair to a choir conductor. The chair should note when a decision has been made, because people may keep repeating the issues over and over again. So they should capture the main points, especially the key areas of agreement, summarize and move for meeting forward. Now, AOB in Kenya, in quotes, has been expunged. Why? Because people sometimes don't understand what AOB is. AOB means any other business. It means I can't bring in a new agenda issue. And if under AOB I raise a substantive issue, it should form part of the agenda of the next meeting. Those are the rules, general rules of meetings. However, when people expand that is because sometimes our workplaces have become so politicized, so people use AOB to stab the chair. And even for high-profile meetings, it becomes a political tool. So it's a Kenyan scenario given what is you can pinpoint. And I like telling participants, the Traffic Act is very clear. You can't drive on a pavement. You have to slow down at pedestrian crossing. But what happens? In Kenya, when I did my SLDP, we did a study on road safety. That was our position paper. And I remember from that study, we discovered that so many pedestrians are knocked at zebra crossings from the police records. So what does that tell you about us? We are the people who can actually do things opposites of what everybody else does, by saying now we must expunge AOB, not because AOB is bad, but because of who we are. I'm hoping that this is something that will correct itself as we mature as a nation. The other very important thing is that it's important when the secretary is capturing the decisions to also note the action points. What are the actions? What did members agree on? And that's why we normally come up with a matrix which guides us a quick reference, so that we can even keep reminding officers who have been allocated certain tasks pertaining to certain decisions to be able to do their own part, so that they are better prepared to contribute in the next meeting. That is very important. Now, people normally mix the two, action and resolutions. Boards come up with resolutions. It is now the management that actions those resolutions. Generally, they are more or less close cousins, but it's just a terminology, because I find people equating them as the same. You find some people talking of actions and resolutions matrix. You can't have both, because this course is about management meeting. We have another course that touches on board meetings, the board paper writing course. So the most important thing is all of us are constant members of meetings. Let's support the chair. Let's do our background reading, come to meetings with an open mind, support the cause of the organization of government, and not allow our personal feelings, preferences to mask or the meeting, or to compromise even the decisions. Those are the key things I would want to highlight there. And basically, the bit about minute writing is basically what the government of Kenya, basically this is what even you'd find in a lot of government entities. Many people forget that it is very important to have adoption of the agenda. That is very important. Many people, after beginning the meeting, opt to just go straight to confirmation of previous minutes. It's always good to have it. In short, it's called adoption of agenda. In full, its introduction and the adoption of agenda, where you members, because sometimes at this point, it is possible to amend the phrasing of the agenda. It's also possible to defer an agenda because maybe members are not ready, and that is quite in order. So that is basically the key areas about meetings I would want to point out. And to agree with a lot of experts and a lot of you in this forum, that meetings are basically about people, and people are very complex beings. So the truth is, you'll always find meetings not really being perfect. But the most important thing is for you as a chair to ensure that to ensure not the right decisions are made, and to know that a meeting can never be perfect when you're dealing with people, because the biggest challenge is usually the chair, the secretary, and sometimes the members. Why the secretary? Sometimes people forget. The secretary can actually decide to capture the things the way the chair. I don't know, since I started working, I don't know, I've always been picked by chairs to take the notes. They are called notes for the minutes, or to do the note taking, or the minute taking, as also people prefer to call it. And I've also noticed that sometimes some secretaries could actually come up with their own way of capturing what was discussed. And it sometimes is not a true reflection. And that's why participants who come for our conduct of meetings and minute writing, because sometimes they even say that some of the chairs insist that those minutes must be typed and signed today, because as long as something delays by a month, sometimes the memory also becomes dim. And that's why it's also good to always attend meetings with a notebook as a member. Write, just at least capture the decision agreed on, because it's not that sometimes secretaries do this intentionally, but because sometimes, and some of you here are guilty of that. You hear the meeting is tomorrow. So what do? So you burn the midnight oil, type in the minutes. And when was this meeting held? It was held in December, before Jamhuri Day. So imagine you are looking at your notes, you can't understand a lot of what was said. You are texting colleagues, they're telling you, I think we did this, that, and the other. Anyway, by morning, the minutes are there. They've been typed, they've been printed, but are they exactly a true reflection of what transpired? So that's why sometimes the secretary can be told, and the chair can be dictators, persuaders, abdicators, or destroyers. Why? A chair can dictate the way a meeting should go, and if the chair is so powerful, you have no cause but to just obey, in quotes. The secretary can also dictate. Even there are secretaries who are very powerful, who manipulate the chair. There are also those who are persuaders, fix the agenda, because they want certain agenda in place as opposed to others. They are persuaders. So they do some lobbying before the meeting to persuade you that that agenda should be there. Yeah, it should be. Abdicators, they are those who don't play their role. And even there have been instances, even in our history of the public service, where some people have even stepped and just said they are no longer going to stepped aside and said they are no longer going to chair a meeting because of certain characters or people in that meeting, or because they can't trust the person who is writing the minutes and so on. And there are destroyers who basically even affect the service delivery, because they rubbish even what members contribute, or they don't, they come with a fixated mentality about something. So that is basically what meetings are all about. So at the end of the day, the biggest challenge in meetings is often you and I, human beings. At the end of the day, meetings test the chair's ability to handle people. Meetings improve your people skills. They also improve your decision making, and they make you understand an organization better from a broader perspective, instead of just, because each of us contribute to our organizations from a smaller or narrowed perspective. It helps you see things from a bigger picture. So that is basically what there is about meetings. Then I would want to go to office communication, which you are all very familiar with. And with office communication, because this is something that is you interact with on a regular basis, I just wanted to pinpoint the fact that Basically, our focus at SMC is on office correspondence, because it's at supervisory skills. We look at effective communication, because I noted in the somebody in the discussion parking lot talked about communication generally, but basically it's just to point out that very important aspect. Our focus here is on office communication, and the only thing I want to point out is the very important aspect of improving how we write our letters, memos, or emails. One of the most important thing is plan what you're going to write. If I'm writing an email, the good thing is at least an email, I don't need to send it before I'm happy with it. And the same would be true for a letter memo. But the most important thing is always think through your response. Don't let an email be the point of a back and forth discussion because you use certain phrases or words that tickled your reader in a negative way. So you start an argument over email, or you start a correspondence letter, memo, because you weren't careful with the words that you used. You'll notice something about management communication. You must always do your own background homework or research. So plan what you're going to write by asking yourself, why am I writing this? What do I need to put in this letter, memo, or email? What should I leave out? What important information should I include that the reader needs to read? If it's a memo or email, I may be writing to colleagues, I may be writing to my superiors, I may be writing to my juniors. What are the key things that I need to take note of? The most important thing, arrange this information logically, so that at least we normally say that in writing, initially tell me what the purpose, why you are writing. And that is why you notice in office correspondence, it's very important not to just get to the point, but to tell me, why am I writing? That if it's memos, you notice people normally will begin like, we wish to inform all staff, or this is to inform the transport team that owing to this, that, and this. That is basically how we begin. And we inform people why we are writing, then we give them the reason why we are writing. If we are responding, we refer to what they wrote, or what was written that necessitated this response, but it must be guided by credible information. And credible information, even for meetings, includes, you must ensure that your facts are correct. You must use the inadequate details that explain the issue without leaving room for the reader to ask whether it's a letter, memo, or email, or whether it's even during the meeting, so that people don't ask what it is, that if you can give them further details on this. That means when it comes to details, you may need not numerical information, you may need expert information, you also may need professional information, because both meetings and office correspondence are about decisions that are watertight, that are grounded on a concrete legal framework, are supported by practice and or expertise, and can actually be given either as numerical information or even in written sentences or words of factual information of whatever type. That is basically what we are saying. For example, when somebody writes a memo and says, it has been noted that some of the staff, or it has been noted it has been noted that the staff, that is a memo. But when you say some of the staff, that is insinuating that yeah, there are some, but who are they? Those who are not part of the some may get offended. When you say it has been noted that the staff, the question is it the entire organization? Be very clear if you must pinpoint. Otherwise, it's better to say that, for example, it is we wish to inform staff that to remind staff that our working hours are between maybe 8 to 4, and this is essentially important because this will help us meet our objectives as an organization and be able to deliver services to our clients as fast as possible. Something like that would be considered polite, a polite reminder. But when we have this kind of condescending way of writing, it has been noted, which people like, a phrase people like using in government. Sometimes those who are not part of the EATS and the note begin to feel like you are not being fair as a writer. So always arrange your information in a way that is devoid of emotion, that is neutral. Even if you're pointing fingers, remember everything that gets documented in minutes or office correspondence is basically remains a record for even maybe forever. So it let people not say that you are very emotive as you wrote this, you insinuated this, that, and the other. Just be, it's better to deal with some things face to face with a specific person or persons than documenting them or being very emotive, because at the end of the day, it may not make you, the writer, you, the supervisor, look very good. Try to be very, very focused. And you also know that we also have logical sequencing when we are writing. Like when it comes to minutes, we normally say that it's important to capture the key areas highlighted in the discussion and then what did they agree on. And in the same way, when we are writing office correspondence, focus on the key areas and just provide necessary details to avoid making the discussion unnecessarily long. We always also begin with the most important aspects and wind up with the less important. Like when for in an email, we can say wishing you well. Even in a memo, you can say something like regards, because memos are not very, very strict in terms of how you phrase them. And remember, the email basically uses the traditional memo template. Just like in minutes, explain your points clearly, ensure that your facts, figures are correct, use words that are, remember, you don't want to show people that you actually are very well knowledgeable with in vocabulary by using very complex words and complex sentence structures, which some people in the who read the minutes or read your letters, memo, or emails may find, okay, yeah, you have put it rather well, but why can't you just use common words that we use? There's a place for everything. When you're writing a paper report, you may want to scale up your vocabulary. When it comes to minutes office correspondence, remember, because of wider circulation, wider readership, maintain a middle way in terms of level of vocabulary and use. And you'll notice when it comes to anything that is written, we always maintain objectivity in terms of we don't want to show, even in our letters, memos, or emails, that you are leaning towards one you are leaning too much on one side over the other. Maintain neutrality as much as possible. You also are aware when it comes to paragraphing, both for office correspondence and minutes, please note that when you are paragraphing, you need to also note that every paragraph represents a sub-idea of the main idea. So if we are on agenda 4 about maybe end of year party, something like that, each paragraph under that agenda item should contribute to that issue without mixing up ideas. So the same rules that apply for writing at this level that we learned also in school, in our academic learning, are also very important in terms of also observing more or less the same rules when we write office correspondence and when we write minutes. So the only other thing that I wanted to point out before I hand over to my colleague is the dating system. In Kenya, the dating system it begins with the way we write dates is the day, the month, and the year. There's been a problem where people begin with the month and the year, and they say, you know, when I went to school XYZ, we used to begin with the month. Yes, that's okay, because a country like the US observes the global dating system where you begin with the month, the date, and the year. Many countries in the Commonwealth, Kenya included, are still using the date first. So you name the day, the month, and the year. Let's stick to that because it confuses the reader when we sometimes mix them up, especially when all the correspondence minutes are coming from the same organization. So with that, I don't think I have anything else to add from what I noted. Yes, one last thing, WhatsApp. I noted that from the parking lot. Now, how would I use WhatsApp officially? I would use WhatsApp after I've written a memo to staff, for example, or I'm writing something to my superior, my supervisor. I would actually quickly draft maybe an email and send it to my superior, if possible, a memo. But I would use WhatsApp to remind my superior that I've already sent email and memo to that effect. I could say, dear sir or dear madam, or good morning sir, good morning madam. I wish to inform you that I have already emailed you a write-up on the issue with regard to this, that, and the other. As per the email, I have indicated XYZ, and you leave it at that. That's how you use WhatsApp officially. So if I'm calling people for a meeting, there must be an official document, because auditors are talking about this nowadays. You find that, was there a notice for this meeting, really? Because send people the notice and then use WhatsApp to remind them of the meeting. But you have done your due diligence by having a notice given for the meeting. Don't send minutes on WhatsApp. Tell them the minutes have already been circulated. And as much as possible, let's try to use our official emails. We are doing a lot of government business on Gmail, and any person here. Hautasumbuliwa na maswali mingi. Thank you kwa class. Hey, elimu yangu mbaru. Yeah, that's somebody who has told somebody usikanisumbue. That somebody is very keen to learn. Yeah, askasumbuliwa kwa class. So ladies and gentlemen, I do want to end there. I didn't see anything that needed my attention. Madam Owino says that anything on negotiation skills she'll handle at another time because she's coordinating, you'll agree on that. I think with that, I can hand over the session to Madam Fatma, who is already on board. Otherwise, I liked the discussion and the response, because it's not about spoon feeding. It's about, because even in this mass, there are people who are very well experienced and who can help us also basically broaden our perspective about certain issues. Otherwise, if anybody has a question, allow Madam Fatma to just take you through, then we can respond so that we don't take too much time. We stick to the given time. So Madam Fatma, over to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Magolo. Good afternoon, dear participants. Are you here?
Good afternoon.
Very lonely.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. So I will take you through 3 units. The first is the public service etiquette, which was unit 2. We'll also look at interviewing skills and presentation skills. If time allows, I could handle one of the sessions under Madam Owino's docket, which is interpersonal communication. So to start us off is presentation skills. I will engage you so that it is not just one-way communication. So the question that was on the discussion forum was basically looking at stage fright. Stage fright is something that many of us have to manage, and it is called glossophobia. As senior managers, at any moment, you ought to be ready because you might be the one who's delivering the presentation, even when at the back of your mind, you knew that it was your superior who would handle that. But then while you're there, at times it is exigencies of work that force the superior to handle, to leave, and therefore you ought to take it up. So the question is, how do we prepare ourselves when it comes to glossophobia? And I really like the responses that you provided, because most of you looked at preparation, which is correct, because when we are looking at presentation skills, mastery of the content is the one thing that you have to have. There is no option of having a plan B. So do you understand the audience that you're going to be delivering that presentation to? In presentation skills, public speaking, we usually have audience analysis. Find out who's going to be there so that you're able to pitch at the right level. We also have preparation in terms of just your mindset. And that's where some of you talked about having confidence in yourself, the dressing that you're going to have, so that we all know that when you're dressed well, it boosts your confidence levels. So having that also helps, because then your confidence levels are going to go up, and that is going to help you with stage fright. I also like that some of you talked about practice. When it comes to presentation, that's why it's a skill. It's not theory. No matter how many times you read, it won't work. You need to get behind or video record yourself. We are in an era of technology. Take your phone, record yourself, try and see what are some of the things that you're doing. Are you making too many unnecessary silent poses, the fillers, your eye contact, and all these things, so that you're able to practice, so that by the time you're going to deliver that presentation, indeed, you're going to deliver it in the most, it will be very good. And the reason why we are emphasizing this is because, dear senior managers, it's not about you. It's about the offices that you occupy. You are senior government officers. Therefore, how do people believe and have trust in you? I don't know whether delivering of speeches by reading everything is something that you enjoy. Let me engage you. Who's on the platform? Patricia, are you with us? I can only see the first name, so I don't know whether there are many. Patricia, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. What is your take about senior government officers who read their speech word for word, or if it's a presentation, they read line by line? Do you enjoy seeing that?
It's not a very good habit, because it means that either you're not the one who prepared the document, or you're not familiar with the topic. So it is usually sends a very bad signal to the recipients or to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia. I can see Bernard, your hand is raised. Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Fatma. I also don't like that idea of reading the manuscript, word for word. It makes me appear as if I'm a robot. It's so artificial. I like being natural and just putting in a few more things from what I read. Even if I have a written speech, then I need to have my own input so that I can also engage the audience in the process. Like what you're doing now, you are delivering what you may call extemporaneous speech, not just a manuscript, reading word for word. Thank you, Madam Fatma.
Thank you very much, Bernard. I can see Madam Owino, your hand is raised. Please proceed.
It's Owino, Mr., not Madam.
Oh, Mr. Oh, sorry. A. Okay. Owino,
Yes.
Mr. Yes, please.
word by word in a speech depends on what you're reading. If you're reading a speech on behalf of a senior person, you don't put your words. I think in government, I've been in situations where you have to read it, and then after reading it, now you can expound on by not reading what was said earlier.
Very true, rightfully put, that you only read that formal speech, and then once you're done, now you are able to, okay? Because again, when we read that, that is, you need to read, it's verbatim, you read word for word, isn't it? But rightfully put. So when you're representing someone, then obviously there's that official speech that you're delivering. And then once that is done, it does not point, you know, the picture that the audience usually have is that you don't have the content. Someone wrote the speech for you, therefore credibility. I'd like to remind you that Aristotle, in his book Rhetoric, pointed out 3 types of appeals that as senior managers we ought to have as we deliver our presentations. Aristotle told us matters to do with ethos, the character and credibility. How believable are you as you're making that presentation so that your audience really take up the message because they see some credibility, believability in you. The second was pathos. This is the emotional appeal. As you're reading, how in touch are you with the content of the speech and the emotions therein? And then the last was the logos. We also are looking at the logical flow of your speech. So dear senior managers, for Aristotle, the most important appeal was credibility. So let's also work on our character as senior managers so that we are not just delivering presentations for the sake of it, but people believe in our characters and they see something good in it. So when we talk about preparation, that is very important as we deliver our presentations. So presentation starts way before. How prepared are you? How thorough are you? How up to date are you in terms of the content that you're meant to deliver? It's also about the venue, understanding where it's going to be so that you're able to prepare accordingly. If you require any audio visual materials, then you know, is it going to work in this particular case? Is it not going to work? As senior managers, it's always good to have plan B in case the original plan does not work. Then what happens? How do you continue with that presentation? Because you are representing that office and therefore you ought to do extra work. And then also think about the time. There is a habit that I've seen most of us senior public officers. We are not sticklers for time. Let me ask, Donna Jimmy, are you on board? This is just to confirm that we are here, not just virtually present. Jimmy, are you with us? Jimmy, are you with us? Jimmy is not responding.
Madam Fatma?
Yes, please.
There's a program assistant on board.
Yes.
I think he can confirm because sometimes their mics have a problem. Yeah.
Okay. I can see that the mic is already on.
Oh,
Bwana
okay,
Jimmy,
so.
you may proceed. Thank you, Madam Magolo, for that. I agree that at times technology might fail us. So even if you're not able to speak, you can use the chat box so that we engage. Jimmy, are you able to unmute now? Madam Beatrice, are you with us? Jacqueline, do you want to respond? Madam Jacqueline Kwamboka, I can see your mic is on. SMC 376, are we here?
I'm getting worried.
Yeah,
we are here.
Just
You
we
see
are
when
here.
you're quiet and your videos are off, I'm not sure whether we are still communicating.
No, we are in class.
Okay, Michael, take it away. Michael,
Yeah.
then I can engage you now that I have seen, I have
Karibu.
had you responding. Michael, what's your
Yes.
take about time management, especially where you have been given time to make a presentation? What's your take? What do you see common occurrence within our public sector organizations?
Well, Madam, time management is one of the most critical items when we are presenting a formal speech. Many times we find ourselves running outside of the allocated time, perhaps because we were not the authors of the speech. And so we find ourselves not doing the right speed of presenting the speech. Or as a question earlier posted, maybe the environment has intimidated us. And we therefore lose part of the time during presentation of the speech.
Thank you very much, Michael. Indeed, time management is one of the most important things because you're going to lose your audience. Bernard, I can see your hand is raised. Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you for another chance. I want to say there is one funny and interesting characteristic of Kenyans. When they are pressed with time, they waste more time by talking of, I will not waste a lot of your time because time is far much gone. Mine will be very brief. Now, ironically, you are wasting more time by saying those things, yet you've said there's not much time. So I think the best thing is just to go straight to the point. You've been given 2 minutes to pass a vote of thanks. Just do that straight away instead of being so verbose. I think as Kenyans, we are just verbose. We want to use so many words to say something very little. Thank you.
Verbosity, and now we are even contradicting ourselves when we say we don't have much to say and you go on and on and on, rightfully put. So let's also manage the time because the audience, the minute the audience loses you, that is it. Remember, when we're looking at presentation skills, we are focusing on the concentration. That's why I keep calling on you to verify whether you are still here. So when we are checking for effective presentation, ask yourself, clarity. How well did you do on clarity? Ask yourself, vocal variety. If you speak in a monotone, you bore people. So you need to ensure that you fluctuate your voice so that you're able to appeal to the particular audience that you are engaging with. Think of your eye contact. Even for virtual meetings, at times you see people looking at the screen, looking at the computer. So figure out, one of the pointers is just look straight. If it becomes very difficult because you want to look at the people within the meeting for virtual meetings, take a sticky note, place it near your camera, draw a smiley there. You're going to just look there straight in the webcam. So eye contact is important. It also must be well managed, especially for face-to-face, so that people don't feel like you're staring. So you're glancing over so that you're able to connect with the audience. That's why it becomes difficult where we are reading everything, then it means we don't have a chance to connect with our audience. Think of the audience awareness. Are you addressing the right audience? Have you prepared for the right audience? Think of use of gestures. Gestures are important, like what I'm doing, but make sure that they are intentional and purposive so that they do not distract. Neither are you expected to stand straight like a robot, because again, it's a sign of you're not very confident, you're not very sure, and therefore be easy, relax. There is also the issue of comfort level. How confident are you? How are you using your space? Especially for face-to-face presentations, don't just stand in one place at the podium, move around, but obviously right now with COVID protocols, make sure you maintain your distance. Interest, create some interest with your audience so that they do not stray away, and then look at your type of delivery, and very important, engage the audience. don't make it one way. Ensure that it is two-way communication. So I'd like to stop there unless there are any concerns on presentation skills. I checked on the parking lot. There were no questions or issues raised under presentation skills. Any concern under presentation skills before we proceed to the next? We are okay. I saw a chat. Juliana says, oh, sorry. You should also limit interruptions and stay organized. Very important because you are delivering an oral presentation. So the minute you are not organized, the logos, if you're not logical in the flow, you're going to lose out on your audience. So I'd like us to move on to interviewing skills. I know you have looked at, you read the presentations that we had. So when we talk about interviewing skills, senior managers, we are concentrating on two categories. We want to look at the information interviews as well as job interviews. Could I engage someone to tell me how they have made use of information interviews? Let me identify someone who is in the room. Madam Anne Rasowo, are you with us? Anne, are you with us? Let's go to Caroline Odwor. Are you with us? Madam Caroline, are you with us? Grace Mwangi, are you with us? Mr. Isaac Parashina, are you with us? Any volunteer? It seems like all the names I am picking on. I can see Mary. Mary, thank you very much. Yes, who has raised their hand? You may proceed. Yes.
I'm not sure if my microphone is working.
Loud and clear.
Okay. We have used information interviews, for example, for the investigators in an organization like Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. When you want to obtain information from the witnesses or an accused person, you have to interview them as you do the statement. So that's part of information interview, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Rightfully put. So where you're expected to gather information, where you are getting information, use that. Any other person who can tell us how they have used information interviews? Anyone else? Mr. Owino, I had seen your mic was on. I don't know whether you had something to add.
Yes, Madam Fatma. Information interview, again, I think when addressing the press, giving information about an organization or an aspect of operation in an organization to members of the fourth estate, that is an information interview.
Thank you very much. And I wonder what your opinion is about how well we are doing. Have you seen any instance where a senior public officer ends up being, in an awkward place because they're not able to articulate issues? Mr. Owino?
Several of them we've seen occasions arise. I won't mention specific departments, but you find the senior officer who is authorized to speak to the press somehow don't even know the thing he was speaking about or some aspects of the organization he or she works in. So they end up being embarrassed, and it's all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Rightfully put. Let's hear from Judith. Judith, your hand is raised. Please proceed.
Thank you. Information interview can be used by
a boss, maybe who sends a junior officer to an event or to a meeting and would like to get some reactions concerning that event or that meeting, personal reactions. It could be an informal way, not really informal, but a way of getting personal information about the function or that event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. And I also suppose that it's an area that we need to look at as senior managers. Once we send out officers, do we create time to get the feedback so that, remember, knowledge management within public service is an area that all of us need to ensure that we build and support. I saw a response from Anne. She said that I have interrogated complainants with a view of gathering evidence. We understand your mic is not working. Patricia says when there's a job advert in an organization you're interested in, you meet an official friend of that organization to get more information about the organization before you can make your application. Okay, so information interviews generally. As a senior manager, you are expected to make informed decisions. So you must ask yourselves, are you asking the right questions? 1, are you asking the questions in the right manner? 2, the third question, are you asking the right people? As a senior manager, you are expected to ensure that there is coordination so that as you are making those decisions are based on certain tangible information. Many at times within our institutions, we have a lot of information, but it is within the realm of individuals. It is just tacit knowledge. So how do we extract this? Where we have a lot of people leaving the service, but they live with wealth of experience. How do we tap into that so that we are able to grow the entire department or organization at large? So senior managers, when we are thinking of information interviews, this is very important. At any moment, you could have expressed permission to provide information about what you do. Remember, we are also ambassadors of government and ambassadors of our individual institutions. When there's any question, when someone is asking you, so what about this project? How far is it? Are we aware of what is happening? How are we able to articulate? Are we negative about our institutions? So we must ask ourselves, yes, Juliana's succession planning, yes, because it's information. And the reason why interviewing skills is within the ambit of management communication is because communication cuts across. So whether it's in HR, you still require, it's a skill, interviewing skill, because remember the definition of an interview. It's your ability that you're able to create an understanding of a particular person, understanding of a particular event, whatever it is. So how well are you able to create the understanding based on your ability to give and receive information? So let's see what it is that we can do to ensure that anytime we get an opportunity to represent organizations, as Mr. Owino pointed out, let's not put our organizations in an awkward position because we were not able to articulate or we are being asked information and we are not aware of what is happening. We're giving stale information, we look confused. So it's something that we need to work on. Then we look at the second category, which is job interviews. Senior managers, you sit in panels. You also go for interviews. Remember, to whom much is given, much is expected. So how do you conduct yourself while you are undertaking that interview? I know there are formalities there in, for example, ensuring that you declare interests, and we do it as a formality. But just remember, it's not there just for a formality. It is there because it's meant to be an objective process. So ask yourself, where we are questioning the quality of officers that we have, then it means that someone somewhere was not keen in this process. So there are many different ways that we can use. We have behavioral interviews. Could anyone tell us what they understood by behavioral interviews? Anyone? Anyone who understood what a behavioral interview is? Anyone? Are we still here?
Yeah, we are still there.
Okay, please. Yes, I can see a hand is raised. Yes, Mr. Roberts, tell us what you understood by behavioral interviews.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it is used to gauge somebody's previous behaviors and performance, particularly in a job context, to see whether they'd be a good fit for the role that they are interviewing for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So behavioral interviews just perform like a theory that once we understand your behavior, then whatever it is that you did is a precursor of what you're likely to do in future, whether or not that will be the case, because again, we all understand that everything is contextual. So the context might be different, but at least it gives us some information, some understanding of you as a person in a better way. Not a 360, but in a better way, in-depth understanding of things, probably contexts that you might not have been able to put in your documentation. So part of the engaging could be a question relating to how you conducted yourself in the past. For instance, how you manage crisis while you are in organization X as a senior manager, so that we understand if we were to have any crisis moving on as we take you on board, then this is likely how you are going to take that in. Thank you. What about traditional interview? What did traditional interview mean to you? Yes, Madam Mary, I can see your mic is on. Please proceed.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it was on.
You can just proceed, yes. Traditional?
Yeah, traditional interview are the interviews that have been used in the past for a long time, where the interviewer and interviewee have a face-to-face discussion, and there's a list of questions and they're being addressed to them and they respond.
Mm-hmm. So these are questions that even when someone wakes you up in the middle of the night, you know, you can anticipate this question, a question about your experience, a question about your educational qualification, a question about how you fit in, question about tell us about yourself. So these are things that are general, so that are traditional. And therefore, at times as senior managers, we ought to ask ourselves when we use traditional interviews, do we need to beef it up so that we get someone who, even when they're coached, you can see whether they are genuine or not. Mr. Owino, you had something to add?
Yes, what you've just reiterated. Traditional interview is the formal, straight question answer to know more about the interviewee by the interviewer.
Thank you. Thank you for that addition. Now moving on to case interviews. Anyone? Case interviews. When we talk of case interviews, what does it mean? Where is it applicable? Anyone? Any volunteer to take this up? Case interviews? Silence means yes. Thank you for raising your hand. Please proceed, Mildred.
Thank you, Madam Fatma. I think a case interview is one whereby a job interview where the candidate is asked to solve a business problem. Thank you.
Full stop. That was quite concise. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mildred. So you're given a scenario. You need to look through it with an analytical eye, conceptualize the issue, and then give your strategies. What options do you have? Yes, Juliana, analytical skills. You are trying to gauge how well are you in terms of your analytical skills, conceptual skills, planning skills, problem-solving skills. So all this would be through that particular case. So because of the type of interview, remember, analytical and the kind of the skill set, that means it would not be at an most likely entry, but someone who is moving forward. Halima, I concur, where the interviewer is looking for the results. Yes, you want to see the strategies, the results that would come out of that. What about technical interviews? Technical interviews, anyone? When you talk about technical interview, what are you focusing on?
Yes.
Yes. And I want you to please proceed first.
Hello?
Yes.
Well, technical interview, just like the name is describing it, is a case where the information that is of interest is about some technical knowledge and skills in a particular area, kind of like a professional area for which someone is trained. We conduct an interview to establish how much of the knowledge and skills such a person possesses.
Thank you very much, Michael. Bonfas, do you want to add on that, or it's exactly what Michael said?
Oh yeah, I think, thank you for the discussion. Michael has almost said exactly what I wanted to say, but maybe I can add and say that in this type of interview, the interviewers are looking for unique skills where someone has probably undergone some high level of training, giving him, some very special knowledge and skill set that the organization will probably be looking for. So the questions will be tailored to establish how technical or how good is this person if we hired him. Would they be able to deliver on that at that high level of technical knowledge? So I think that maybe I can give an example to make it clearer. I work in the Ministry of Health, and when COVID came, the Public Service Commission advertised for positions of epidemiologists. People with the skill set that is required to respond to emergencies such as COVID-19. So normally, a health worker could have what we normally expect them to have from the normal training that they probably underwent. But an epidemiologist is expected to have a special skill set to be able to investigate disease outbreaks and identify factors for transmission, which will now be helpful to control that emergency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rightfully,
You don't want to work without a mouse to correct that.
Example.
So unapeleka tu kasa hapo na una click.
Madam Eunice. Madam Eunice. There is another hand, Janet.
Sinafaa kuhighlight kuletea the correct one. Anyway,
Madam Fatma, just mute, because if I mute, I'll mute you.
I have.
Okay.
I've done so. Janet, your hand had been raised. I don't know whether you wanted to add on. Okay, Seems we have lost Janet. So rightfully put, technical competencies that you're looking out for. And so when we're looking at this particular candidate, do they have what it takes in terms of the technical competencies that you are eyeing? Can they do what it is that you are expecting this person to deliver within that particular job description? Then we have stress interview.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Carry on. Yes.
Yeah, to the case interview, I do agree with the participants. We are trying to get somebody with unique skills, but also one of the biggest challenges, even in Kenya, many case interviews today also have taken the trend where we want somebody who can solve our problems. In fact, the downside of a lot of the case interviews in this in the world, not necessarily in Kenya, like people have used interviewees as free consultants. So I give you a case interview with an issue we are grappling with at work. You as a professional, as an expert, you resolve it. And then unfortunately, we tell you you didn't get the job. That's the downside of it. That's why whenever you are in a case interview, don't divulge everything. Leave, we call them the loose nuts, where they will still need you to come and tie the nuts. But it's a good way to get people who are more resourceful, apart from what you'd get out of a traditional interview. Because right now there's a challenge. Like now, if you are asked in your organization, how do we generate more revenue? You need people who can think outside the box and who can have a broader picture, clearer perspective, new ideas. And that's what basically the world is looking at. So I just wanted to add to what your colleagues had said. Madam Fatma, over to you.
Thank you very much. Rightfully put. In fact, there is a class where people really complained and said, you know, people have been mining information using case so that they get all this information. You don't get the job, but they have all the ideas of how to solve their problems. Thank you very much, Madam Magolo. Irene, your hand is raised. Please proceed. Irene? Irene is not responding. So we are going to proceed.
Her hand is up. Her hand is up again.
Yes, she is not. Please just unmute and proceed. Irene, okay. What about stress interviews? Anyone who can share with us any experience that they have concerning stress interviews? Have you ever attended an interview that you felt someone was really pushing your buttons? Anyone would like to share with us the experience of stress interviews? Yes, Goretti, please unmute and share with us. Goretti, please unmute.
Are we all here, or
she's unmuted, so let's give her Goretti, and then Mary, and then Mr. Owino. Goretti, please proceed.
Fatma, I can say something?
Yes, please.
I think the stress interview is supposed also to grade the job holder, to know whether they have that capacity of where you are working under a stress situation and you are able to focus on the job. And at the same time, they are also
Now we cannot hear you, Goretti, but we had the first part where you are establishing whether the person is able to navigate, stay focused in an environment that might be really tough. Like a senior managers, the higher you go, the hotter it becomes. Let's hear
Madam,
from
that is correct. That is Juliana. That was Juliana.
Juliana. Oh, Goretti is unmuted, but she is silent. Okay, Juliana.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Goretti, give us 1 minute. Let Madam Juliana finish, and then we come back to you. Yes, Juliana, had you finished?
Yeah, that was me. That was me was saying about the focus under stressful situation. Yeah.
Thank you
My
very
network is a
much.
bit shaky. I hope you are getting me.
We have gotten you loud and clear. Thank you very much. Madam Juliana has raised an important thing. We all write in our CVs and letters that we work well under pressure, we can handle it. So when you're subjected to such an interview, how well are you able to contain yourself? Thank you, Madam Juliana. Goretti, please proceed.
Yes, I was just saying that stress interviews is whereby the interviewer wants to assess your emotional control. How much are you able to control your emotions? They can do this by asking you a question that may make you feel a bit nasty or heated, but then they want to see how do you react once that. Are you able to manage your emotions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So emotional control, emotional intelligence, that is a key skill for any senior managers. Keeping your emotions in check so that you do not go having emotional outbursts. Thank you. Mary, let's hear from you and then we will finalize with Mr. Owino. Mary?
Thank you, Madam Fatma. A colleague of ours once gave us a story of an interview that he attended, and we found it a bit hilarious that during the interviewers at one point were walking out, almost all of them, looking like they were not interested in what he was saying, and they would come back and again ask what he was saying and ask too many questions. At some point, he lost his cool and he was asking them, why do you keep walking out? And when I explain, you don't listen. And they told him that is part of the interview.
Very well. So as you see people who are coming in and going out, you can get frustrated. You can decide to tell them, hey, it's not that serious. I don't need this anymore. So thank you very much, Madam Mary, for sharing that. Mr. Owino, would you like to sum it up, or is there any? Mr. Owino?
Yes, please. Stress interviews are conducted to get the best people who can handle strenuous jobs like the emotion, the physical, and the mental. I have a practical experience at Kenya School of Adventure and Leadership, I think in Marania. They were looking to develop leadership skills in some of us, and it was a 1 week. We thought it was a training, but upon completion, we were told that's an interview. Those who could not hike up to peak Lenana were told you failed, and we're not going to promote you to this level because you cannot physically endure, you cannot mentally endure strenuous things. And the positions they're going to give you are going to demand that of you. So that was a case of, however it was longer, it's a case of a stress interview to push your limits and see those who can sustain that to be promoted to the next.
Thank you very, very much for sharing that. So at Kesal, yes, are you able to survive? Because now it's about survival. Are you able to keep up? Or would you just say, this is too hard? So thank you very much. I can also see from the charts, Patricia says it's used to gauge a candidate's ability to withstand harsh, hostile, competitive situations. In such moments, the decisions taken by a person can either break or make the moment. That is important for a senior manager. Stress interviews are used to find out how the interviewee handles a stressful situation. What are some of the examples? I think the examples have been shared, where it could be a question that triggers your emotions, or it could be behavior that people undertake during the interview, just to see what your limits are. How do you conduct yourself in that particular environment? Madam Juliana, your hand is raised.
The person being interviewed also should, hello, you are getting me?
Yes.
Yeah, the person who is being interviewed also should understand that he or she is going through the stress interview questions so that they can remain calm. If you are not aware that you are undergoing that kind of interview, you will find yourself getting stressed and you'll not be able to control yourself.
Thank you for that tip. So just know it is meant to just test you, and it is temporary. So remain calm and collected so that you do not end up falling for that bait. So thank you very much.
Madam Fatma, can I add something?
Yes, please. Yes, Madam.
Just as a follow-up to what Judith said, what are some of the examples? Yeah, the example given from the participant, Kenya Leadership School, is one way, especially depending on the kind of work, because the fact that I cannot climb to the peak of Mount Lenana does not mean that I can't work. For example, I'm just using an example, but some of the stress interviews are very subtle. For example, and I'm giving you examples that have been shared by SMC, especially the face-to-face classes in the past. You go for an interview, they tell you be there by 8. When you get to that place, you are there early, by 7:30 you are there. 8 comes, nobody is telling you anything. 8:30, 8:40, 9:30, you are now so angry, so upset, so thirsty. You're just being told, wait. It's usually, like one of you said, it's also supposed to gauge character in somebody. Some of you may have seen even the WhatsApp that was doing its rounds about this young man. He went for an interview. As he was stepping into the building, he found a water pipe that was just, that didn't seem to have anybody. There was no indication that somebody was working or using that water. And what he did, he stepped off the footpath and went and just closed the tap. When he entered the building, the main door, he was just told to proceed. When he went to the waiting room, he found so many lights, and in that room, everything was so bright because I think the voltage of the bulbs was a bit high. So what he did, he sat a bit, switched them off, and I think some of you are familiar with that. So basically, actually, he did get the job, but many people came and just passed. So it's also to gauge character, especially right now, people in government right now, people want, you'd rather have somebody with character than somebody who is a high performer and he's siphoning money out of your kitty, in quotes, or he's not even, he's not even giving you support as an organization. So there are so many, in fact, many, you cannot even, some of them are very subtle, that you cannot even tell, like you're being interviewed. You may even, like the example one of you has given, you may even begin to think these people are foolish. Why are they walking out and doing that? That's why every interview is an artificial situation. Just follow the script. Thank you, Madam Fatma.
Thank you very much, Madam Magolo. I can see Judith is asking, last week's network interruptions, was it an example of stress interview? Well, it was not by design. However, as senior managers, it's also to measure your maturity. So that how do you deal with that? How do you, because we all know at some point things will not go right in your organizations. As a senior manager, how do you manage that, right? So Moses has said, yeah, it was not designed to trigger your emotions, but I am sure the way you conducted yourself as a class was also an indication of the level of maturity for senior managers. So well done for that. So the last thing under interviewing skills is to look at the roles of the interviewer, the roles of the interviewee. We must ask ourselves, as the interviewer, what do you do before, during, and after to ensure that the objectives of the interview are met? If you don't prepare, it means that at some point there are going to be certain challenges which are going to crop up. So ask yourself the preparation beforehand, if it's a panel constitution, if it is the issue of the pool of questions, if it is the issue of the briefing, all the things that need to be done prior ought to be done prior. So that when the interview is being conducted, then all the things that needed to have been done had already been done. People understand how to utilize the score sheet. People understand that they prepare themselves and groom themselves accordingly because of this particular occasion that they are going to be representing the organization. And therefore, it is important that when you sit in that panel, you know the things that you're expected to do beforehand. Many instances I get to be told that at times preparations, if they're not adequate, we end up finding some person coming to your office early in the morning requesting you to join them for an assignment, only for you to realize that that assignment is actually sitting in the interview panel. So it means that this person is not adequately prepared, and therefore they may jeopardize the entire flow of the interview. So preparation is important from both the interviewer as well as the interviewee, not just the candidate, but also the people who are conducting the interview. They ought to prepare. Then during the interview, the interviewer is expected to do a lot of things. But let's remember, one of the most important things is engaging. You're engaging because if you're just asking questions and not doing anything, the person might easily perceive that you're not interested, or that that is just a formality, but the office holder has already been appointed elsewhere. So it's not very good for perception. So let's ensure that as we sit in the panel, let's do our roles. Let's play our roles to the best of our abilities. Ensure that you're listening. You're not distracted. You can imagine if you are seated in the candidate seat and the interviewer is distracted, totally distracted. How would you feel? That would be really, really discouraging. So you must be there, show interest, listen, what's the nonverbal code, score objectively, ensure that you are engaged, motivate this person. Interviews are not about just, you're looking for the best person. So create the environment to be able to get that. Then after the interview, obviously there is a scoring where the report is written and it is submitted. Dear senior managers, there are a lot of integrity issues that happen during interviews, where at times the information is already out there before the information, that communication is officially communicated to the candidates. So let's be mindful. Let's ensure that we uphold integrity so that the process is not jeopardized in the process. Then we have the interviewee. The candidate preparation is very important. So preparation, be it mentally, research, documentation, having a reconnaissance to find out where the place is, make sure you know how to get there. So these are being on time, having all the requisites, make sure that you do your thorough, try to just prepare yourself. And then during the interview, it is credibility, your confidence, your integrity to how sincere are you, your etiquette and how you conduct yourself, very important. After the interview, let's focus on the lessons learned. Many a times, if it didn't go very well, we don't want to think about it, but it's always good to identify what are those weak areas that maybe you need to work on. It's a skill, therefore we need to look at that. We also need to be very mindful about biases that may crop up in an interview process, because remember, communication is affected by perception. Biases can crop in. So as you engage, as you ask these questions, make sure that you are aware of certain biases so that you do not judge one person based on the performance of the other person. How do you ask your questions? Are they discriminatory? Are they leading questions? Are they double-barreled questions? Are they, so So ask yourselves as you prepare, look at the how to ask, I mean the how you are formatting the questions, the expected responses, so that the process is as smooth as possible. I'd like to stop there. I only saw one question under interviewing skills that was asked by Stephen. Stephen asked, explain the strategies that interviewers would use to motivate an interviewee during the interview session. And I like the responses. It's about the rapport that is created from the onset by the chairperson. It's about, you know, that small talk that would reduce the level of anxiety. It's about how do you just engage that particular person. Facial expression included. So it's not meant to just make someone feel, you know, the level of anxiety to go up, but remember, it's meant to be to create an understanding. So create a favorable environment for that understanding to be made. So I wish to stop there and move on to the last, which is public service etiquette. And to start us off, when we talk about etiquette, there are those who believe that etiquette is a concept that is foreign, that it is what we took from our colonizers, part of hegemony practices. But I may wish to call upon one or two senior managers to tell us, what is etiquette in your native language? Any volunteers? Yes, Goretti, what is etiquette in your native language?
I would say etiquette is the acceptable behavior in a setup. May it be in office setup, like what we are discussing now. Our focus is office acceptable behaviors or habits, or even in our daily lives. There are those things that we are accepted to portray when we are interacting with other people. This includes how we present ourselves in terms of how we dress, how we talk, how we, our cultural behaviors, how much respect do we give to other people because of maybe their cultural behavior or their positions, and those kind of things. Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful explanation. Now, if you could tell us in your native language, etiquette is, yes, Goretti.
Sorry, say it again.
In your native language.
Yeah.
What's etiquette? Because etiquette, the word is foreign, right?
Yes.
But in your native language, in your mother tongue, what's etiquette?
Oh.
And then we'll go to Isaac.
Tabia.
Tabia?
Yes, bienendo.
Oh. Okay, thank you. Yes, Isaac?
Talking about native in terms of our local language.
Yes, your native language, yes.
Okay, Enkanyit sidai.
Well done. So we are in agreement that etiquette
that
is
is
not
Masai.
That is Masai, right? Because I had the Sidai and I had an idea of what it is. Thank you. Thank you very much, Isaac and Goretti. So, senior managers, the word etiquette is what is foreign, but the content therein, we were all socialized to have good manners. Senior managers, we've said to whom much is given, much is expected. How do you conduct yourself? I like the question that someone posed in the chat and asked, can the current generation millennials pass such interviews? I'll take it back to what that particular millennial sees. You see, you're the role models. You are expected to be the mentors. So when it comes to what is expected, it's about the organizational culture. The culture doesn't happen, it doesn't drop down from the sky. It is created. So as a senior manager, you have to be very careful on how you're conducting yourself, because you're representing that office. So respect is to the office. So we must ensure that we are representing our offices in the best possible way. So when we talk about etiquette, we ask ourselves, socially acceptable behavior in the office, what are we expected to do? When it comes to the corporate etiquette, matters to do with professional appearance. What is a professional appearance? You know, etiquette is probably we are looking at it not from common sense, but based on certain guidelines. As public officers, we are guided by, we have a legal framework that guides us. When we look at the Constitution, Article 10 gives us certain information about the values. When we look at the values, then we need to cascade it back to organizations. We also have our organizational values, our core values, and I'm sure what cuts across is professionalism. Professionalism, again, when we go back to our professional organization, professional bodies that we belong to, we have codes. We come back to organization, we have a code of conduct, very clear. So when we ask ourselves in matters to do with our professional appearance, what's expected? What is that zone of tolerance for a senior manager when it is about your dressing and grooming? Senior managers, some of organizations have very clear policies. In fact, there are those that I know that have a dressing policy, like the dressing policy itself exists. So as a senior manager, your work is to ensure that you understand what the policy is, one. You are there to search policy, and very important is to help in the implementation. So that when someone comes, when someone in your team comes and they are not dressed or groomed in an acceptable manner, you don't ask them, did HR see you? But you take that responsibility to ensure that you are mentoring this person. You're telling them in a nice way so that you're all able to adhere to such policies and guidelines. So professional appearance, your personal comportment is very important because of the image, the impression. My dress, my choice has no place because of the diversity that we have. If we all brought in what we would prefer, then it might be chaotic. And remember, as public officers, we're expected to present ourselves in a manner that will instill confidence in our offices. So let's remember that. So I know you've looked at the material online on the learning platform. You've seen all the do's and the don'ts. I will sum it up into one. Moderation, full stop. Whether it's your perfume, your cologne, senior managers, people should not know that you have walked in by the cologne or the perfume that you have, you know, along the corridor, people know Mkubwa is around because of what it is that they can smell. So moderation is important. The way we dress, remember that's a public office. At any moment, you might be called upon to go represent your organization, to go represent your seniors. Are you in that tip-top shape? And we all know that it's always good to have a plan B. So within the office, identify, okay, if there's something very urgent, you can easily spruce yourself up and show up. Okay, so that is dressing and grooming. We also ask ourselves under the corporate etiquette, meeting etiquette. You have already covered management of meetings with Madam Magolo. So the etiquette of meetings right now, as I am engaging you on this platform, do we have guidelines? What is socially acceptable in our virtual meetings? How long should one be in so that they can qualify to be present? When we are talking, should our videos be on? How do we engage? How do we conduct ourselves? When it's an in-person meeting, punctuality. Do we go peeping and trying to check whether others are in, and therefore we go back to our offices and waste a lot of time? So meeting etiquette, how do we engage ours? And all this stems from the senior manager in terms of the guidelines that they set so that we do not rely on common sense which might not be shared within the organization. We have the writing etiquette. As we write our official correspondences, please let us remember to be courteous. I think this has been stated by Madam Magolo. Courtesy is very important. Don't write when you are emotional, because you know that that is going to jeopardize whatever it is that you're going to write, because at that moment you are angry. So let's remember, when we are writing, that material is always there for future reference. Courtesy is very important. Then we look at phone etiquette. As senior managers, we also engage, we deliver our different duties using the gadgets when we are not there. We all know technology has assisted communication. And I'd like to ask you, how effective are you engaging on this phone? At times we see senior managers having the phone and saying, "Niko kwa mkutano." What does that mean? So let's ensure that we honor face-to-face, then we can always respond to our phones. When it is something urgent, senior managers, there's nothing as beautiful as being reliable. When you cannot be reached, always get back. You're not expected to say, past 5, I don't pick work calls. As a senior manager, the positions you hold at times necessitate that there are certain things that come. And yes, that goes back to you too. When you're engaging with your teams, with your juniors, let it not be a habit that you're calling them always weekends. And maybe that's why you want to legislate something towards that. But ask yourself, is it an appropriate time, so that people can decipher when it's an emergency? They would know. They would not say this is the norm. So let's look at that, because socially acceptable behavior, we know we have our official working hours, right? How long are you spending on the phone? Where is your phone? If you always have your phone with you, you're always perusing and there are clients waiting to be served, it doesn't portray a good picture. Are you putting people on speakerphone? As a senior manager, remember, information is given on a need-to-know basis. If you're too loud on the phone, anyone can eavesdrop your conversations. So appropriate tone, volume might help. There has been a lot of complaint about from the customer service desks regarding calls that are transferred to senior managers. That at times we take too long, at times we are not facilitating. Remember, when we get these calls transferred to us, it's because we are the ones who are expected to handle that matter. So the longer you put the client on hold, the more you're not reachable, the more frustrating it becomes, and it becomes very difficult for the customer service representatives. So let's keep that in mind, right? So phone etiquette is important. When someone calls you as a senior manager, what dial back tone do they hear? So ask yourself such questions. The other kind of etiquette, we've looked at the official etiquette, is also dining etiquette. As we go for our social events, because meal and social interviews also exist. We did not look at that type because I knew we would discuss about that here. We ask ourselves, how do we conduct ourselves? The decorum, consideration, so that when we are dining, we make it comfortable for others. The mannerisms, just hold in, because there are others. Table manners, the things that we were socialized. It's not like it is very foreign. There are some things, yes, the cutlery, maybe you find that is, but there's nothing as beautiful as knowing how to use. And then now you make the choice depending on the environment that you are in. The reason why dining etiquette is important for any senior manager is because we want to avoid the unnecessary awkward situations and embarrassments for a senior manager. So being comfortable is very nice. So understand what is expected. And again, it's just about being, when we sum up dining etiquette, it's discreet. discreet. Those who go with toothpicks as a sign of where you had your meal, discreet. You ate whatever you ate, please dispose it off nicely. When you do not appreciate or you didn't like a particular food that you've already served, you don't need to tell everyone. Maybe someone enjoyed it, so just be discreet. You can pass feedback, but in a discreet way. So everything about dining is discreet, so that you don't cause a scene out of it. Find out most of the events where you are invited as senior managers, you have an opportunity to provide preferences of things you do not take. If you have any conditions, you do that in a discreet way. So it's always good for preparation from the host perspective. Then we have social etiquette. Social etiquette is also important, where we talk about networking. As a senior manager, you are the ambassador. Therefore, at any moment, you would want to engage with fellow public officers, other stakeholders. There is this one particular habit that I don't know whether as SMC 376, we can agree to at least reduce. Where you are going for any social event, there's a stakeholders meeting, there's something happening, please let's go on time. It is very embarrassing when you see a public officer late, and the minute they introduce themselves, they start with, I'm sorry I'm late, my name is Fatma Amir. It's very embarrassing. That's how you're remembered. Like, people will just see this, you know. So let's be there on time. Punctuality is key. Let's learn the art of small talk. Let's not engage in things that might cause embarrassment to other two. So look for comfortable areas as we create rapport. Let's focus on important talk. I know you looked at this when you looked at interpersonal communication. And then let's be considerate generally, right? So that brings us to the end of public service etiquette. I saw a question here. What about hairstyle? Hairstyles has historical roots and based on traditional. Can we have a shift to preserve such traditions? So Joe, it starts with you and I. We said it's a culture, right? So whatever it is that it's public service etiquette is broad. As a senior manager, you now cascade it and customize it according to your sector, according to your organization, so that now you can live by it. We want to move away from the practice of having manuals, policies, and all our SOPs on one hand, and what we do on the other hand. Let what we do stand out so that it really reflects what we envision in our policy guidelines. So I'd like to stop there. There were, I think, 2 questions on public service etiquette. The first was about, I think, passing salt. Yes. Solopian asked if during a meal I decided to use salt. However, before I could ask to be passed the salt, another diner request to be passed the salt. If the salt is passed by me and I use it before passing it on, could this amount to interception? And I love the response that was provided by Mildred. Mildred says, when someone has asked, isn't it? Then pass it first, consideration. And then once it is done, and remember the movement is clockwise, and then you're going to have your turn. So intercepting is not considered very polite. There were a series of questions, there were 5 questions by Mildred. In the event of a public event dinner, how do I know what I should order as my meal? I really do not understand the context, Mildred. If you're here, would you want to kindly clarify? I can see we are 4 minutes past the time, but we will handle that. Mildred, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here, Madam Fatma.
Okay. So let's all listen and then we are going to respond. Yes, so the first question was about?
So the first question, I was wondering whether, for example, I'm invited for a high event meeting, like an official dinner, and there are various foods that are served on the menu. For example, meats, chicken and fish.
Is there a protocol that I need to observe in terms of what I order, or one is allowed to order anything? Is ordering a certain kind of food, for example, in an international setup, considered in different cultural setups? For example, in an international social event, and I'm dining with international guests. If I order a certain kind of food, will that be considered absurd, or is it just an open? Do you order according to your taste, or is there such certain kind of food you need to order? For example, do you start with maybe starters, appetizers, then you go to salads, then you go to the main meal, or can I just do what I normally do in my home environment, go to the main meal? I mean, I don't know if you capture what I'm trying to ask.
I think I get it.
Uh-huh.
I would respond to this by saying that it depends on the context. Usually, where you have a host, right? If we are seated in a table and the host is there, right? We are expected to follow what the host does, not by saying the specific things that they order, but if they start off with the starter, then we go for the starter. If you don't want to take the starter, it's okay to you sip water, so that by the time you're having the main meal, you've not finished. You know, now if you have finished eating and you cannot leave before the host, then that would make you look awkward, because now you'll just be staring at people eating. So the pacing is according to if you have a host there. But in terms of what it is that you pick, remember, if it has been served, right? If it is available, then you may go ahead and order for that. Just the key thing, public officers, moderation. This thing of piling does not put us in very good, so moderation. So yes, you order whatever it is that you want and you continue with that. Mildred, does that address? So it depends on the environment, because again, where it comes to protocol, once the senior most is done and they're leaving, whoever it is that you had gone with, if it's a delegation, once they leave, you have no business remaining there and saying, I had not taken my dessert. No, time for dessert is over, because whoever it is, the head of delegation is leaving, and therefore everyone is expected to leave. Goretti, I can see your hand is raised. And if anyone has any response to this, you may also chime in. Goretti, please proceed.
Yes, I wanted to find out.
Yes.
Sometimes, like you're invited for maybe like a dinner or this evening cocktail. Is it right to take wine?
Has it been? Is it on the menu?
Yes, you see, like maybe there's an option of juice, cocktails, wine. So as a senior manager, if you serve yourself a glass of wine, is it wrong? Does it give a bad picture? Maybe you're a drunkard.
I wouldn't think so. The thing is moderation, so that you even if it's really nice wine, please remember that you are this senior manager. So the moderation, so that you don't end up with a glass after another, all of a sudden it's a whole bottle down, then we all know that might. But so moderation, it is, if it is on the menu, it is okay, but moderation. And then also don't go out of your way asking for something that is not there. It also does not put you in a very good just. Yes, I can see the hands are coming up. Yes, I can see Mildred.
Thank you, Madam Fatma. Okay, for example, let me give a case scenario. For example, in this international meeting, they're probably serving fish as a main meal, and personally, or some sort of seafood. And personally, I do not eat seafood. How do I go about that? Will I be deemed, if I decline the main meal, will I be deemed not receptive, or how should I handle such a situation when we only have one kind of meal being served, and it's not of my preference? Will it be polite to say that I will not be having the main meal because I don't know. It's a difficult
Vincent, is this hypothetical or has it happened to you? Just, I mean, has it ever happened or is it hypothetical?
It's a hypothetical question.
Rarely would it be only one main, you'd find options.
Okay.
Because of preferences. Huh? So in many events, there's always option. There is this and there is this. So if someone does not like this, they have this. So we usually have options. So the planning team always thinks about what if someone is allergic to this, right?
All right.
So if you have white meat, then you're going to have options of white meat. Even if they are just two, you'd not be condemned, right?
Okay, thank you.
So most of the times you would have the options availed, then you decide. Sorry, Beatrice, I had not seen your hand. Yes, Beatrice? Beatrice? Beatrice, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. My question is, in case you've gone to a meeting with your boss in a restaurant, maybe evening meeting, and there are guests that you are talking to, and maybe who is responsible for paying bills in case the bills there was no prior arrangements. Would you go to your boss or would you ask the guests to each one of them to foot their own bills? What happens in that case?
That's an interesting one. Generally, whoever has invited is expected to cater for the cost unless communicated earlier on that I'm inviting you, however, we are going to split the bills. But where you have invited someone, then it is expected that you also go ahead and foot the bill. That is the standard practice, unless you had made it clear prior to that, so that you avoid unnecessary embarrassment to that other person. Is that okay, Beatrice?
Thank you, madam. That is okay.
Thank you. Isaac, the last one?
Yeah, I have about 3, but very brief ones.
Yes, please.
The first one is if you are invited for maybe dinner or lunch in whatever party, and this is considering is formal, and you are not in any mood or appetite to eat out of certain conditions. What will you do? Yes, the food is there and whatever. What will you be doing around the table? Then the second one is when you accompany your boss. Should you leave before your boss or you wait for your boss to leave? The third one is if you are a guest, you are the guest of honor for a function, you have been invited as a guest or the main speaker of the day. Should you wait for the entire function, if for example it's a cocktail or a dinner, for almost everybody to leave and you leave last, or should you leave a little bit? Because there are people who say the guest should leave a little bit early so that he or she can give space for others to leave. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isaac. The first one, if I just want you to imagine if you invited me to your home, you have prepared all this dish, and then I come and I tell you, I just don't feel like eating. How would you feel? So when we are invited, it's considered rude when we do not partake. Take, even if it is very little, right? Very little. When you show up and you're just sitting, or Moses is asking when I'm fasting, you can communicate on the side discreetly that you're not able to, but then let's try to minimize, because then it doesn't look very nice when we are invited and we are always not partaking, especially where the host has taken all these preparations to ensure that there's something served. Are we together? So yes, even when you're fasting, make sure that you're also considerate. It's not like all the time you're invited, you're always fasting. Someone might read something else in between that. So socially acceptable, when you're invited, please honor the invitation, send your apology if you cannot, and while you're there, just the same way when you have a guest, even if it's a glass of water, you would give them. So please ensure that you also partake that. The second question, when the boss is there, you can't leave before the boss. So unfortunately, you have to hang on, stay there, so that you do not look like you are not well-mannered. Manners is about protocol. So you only leave when the boss stands up. Even if you had not finished, then you also need to leave. So you have to be observant to see and pace yourself. Then the last question, when you're the main speaker, when you are the VVIP, please leave so that people can enjoy. Because the longer you stay there, the more people they still feel curtailed. They don't have that freedom. Senior managers, when you have those end of year parties, when you have your cocktails, be there, briefly, give your speech, interact, chit-chat a bit, then leave. Don't hang on, because then you are not letting people have their comfort, not be in their comfort zones. So I don't know whether I have responded to the three, Isaac.
Satisfactory.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Mary, the last question. I can see we are really past our time. Mary?
Sorry about that, madam. I'll try to be brief. It's a follow-up to when you're supposed to leave the table, that the protocol requires that the senior most person is the one to leave first. But there are instances where probably you have something pressing that you must deal with, or the host is not in a hurry, or sorry to say, it may not be time conscious. So is taking his meal, but is not in a hurry to leave. Maybe he's having a conversation with somebody across the table and is distracted. So he's not conscious that people are waiting for him to leave so that they can leave. Is it okay to excuse yourself, or I find that a bit difficult to just sit when you have something to do?
It is difficult when you're seated there and you're wondering, I have to do this, I have to do this. But in terms of protocol and rights, expected behavior is you are meant to be there. Unless if it's an emergency, you can excuse yourself, but it does not. In essence, if you do that, it's like you're telling this person that you're wasting time. Come on, can you get to do something else? We are done. So the thing is, you don't want to make this person feel awkward that you're done or they're still engaging and now you are in a rush to leave. So that's why it's important for senior managers to know what is expected, so that you also do not cause people that feeling that now we finished, but they're still hanging on. They look like they don't have anything else to do. So it's good manners necessitate that we hold on to respect, to show respect to the authority.
Madam Fatma, can I add something?
Yes, please. Yes, madam.
Yeah, for high-level dining, because dining etiquette is at different levels. Like now, for let's say Madam Fatma and I have gone for dinner with the DG, and at 11 p.m. they're still talking. People are still eating, and a number of us have to go. And one of the ways you can do is to get a waiter, ask them to bring a plate or a tray, and then you write a note to your boss, fold it, let the waiter deliver it. And usually the boss will read, look up, and may say, go, or give you some signal. That's another way of doing it. The other thing that is also important, when you came for that dinner, it would have been also, it would have also been more appropriate to tell your boss, for example, that I have an online meeting at 7, so I have to leave at around 4. Maybe it's a luncheon, So, and maybe the luncheon is maybe from 1 to 4, something like that. So once your boss knows, you can just try and get eye contact, or you can just leave, because they already know that you're leaving at that time. So it's always good also to plan ahead, keep them informed. When you're fasting, Moses, it has happened to many people, just add another day, because that day you ate, simple. Because sometimes people may not understand, and it may look like in some cultures, I've been told by some of my colleagues, like the Chinese, Japanese are offended when you don't eat. So just add another day. That's a simple way of doing that, because sometimes telling your hosts, I can't do this, you look petty. Madam Fatma, over to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Magolo. So I hope you notice that the keyword is discreet. So your communication, so that you don't look like you're standing, going all the way, like you're this busy person and the rest of the people are idle. So thank you for that addition, Madam. There were, I think, 4 more questions very quickly from Mildred. What do I do if I have to sneeze at the dining table? Anyone who wants to tell us what they would do if they had to sneeze at the dining table? None of us has sneezed. Anyone who would want to tell us what they would do if they had to sneeze at the dining table?
Madam Fatma, okay, maybe I can start it off. Don't use the table napkins. When you're going for this, remember there's a lot we normally say in etiquette. It's always good for you. I know people don't care about handkerchiefs, but you can carry a handkerchief. Like for men, many men carry handkerchiefs in their jackets, carrying pocket tissues. And ladies, it's the same. Don't just go kienyeji, because you just never know. Because I never use a table napkin, but that's a good question.
Patricia, is it clear? Don't use that napkin provided. Instead, serviette, tissue, handkerchief would do, because mouth and nose are 2 different parts. You don't want to mix the 2, isn't it? The next question that had been raised on the same etiquette: what should I tell someone that they have something on their teeth? So if we had gone for lunch and we've eaten and I have greens all over on my teeth, what would you do? You'd let me walk around telling the entire world that, hey, I had some greens today? It's polite. It's just now how, in a nice way, in a discreet way, so that you don't cause unnecessary embarrassment, okay? So very discreetly, you may want to tell this person, call them to attention that they have something on their teeth. What should I do if I begin to choke on a piece of fish bone? This is a health hazard. So I don't think at that particular moment, it's a matter of life and death, right? Different communities have different ways of dealing with choking on a fish bone. Anyone who wants to tell us what they do or what they were taught about choking on a fish bone? Anyone? Yes, carry on, Mr. Owino.
In my culture, we eat a lot of fish, and should you choke, we are told meza ugali kubwa itaiteremsha. I don't know if that can be etiquette, but the best thing will be just excuse yourself from the table, go to somewhere private, or seek a first aider.
Thank you. Very quickly, right? So that you don't again cause a scene around the table that, oh, there's this person who's so discreet, and very quickly try and excuse yourself, see what it is that you can do to address that situation. Because if you don't address it very quickly, then that can be a health hazard. The last question from Mildred: what do I do if I hit my glass of water by mistake and it spills water on the table? So you had your drinks on the right, your solids on the left. So you hit the water. What would you do? Anyone who would tell us? I'm sure it has happened to many of us. Anyone who can tell us what they would do if they hit the water by mistake and it spills on the table? What's the right thing to do?
I can answer that one and try.
Yes, Perez.
I think you should signal the waiter to come and assist you, because you'll be touching everything on the table, because the waiters have the know-how of what to do at that moment. So you signal the waiters, they'll come and assist you very fast.
Thank you very much. Seek for help discreetly. Just raise your hand, signal eye contact. Someone may come very quickly. Moses, your hand is raised. What would you do?
Yeah, thank you so much. Just in addition to what Perez said, I think it's also good to say that you are sorry. Just saying you're sorry before you take any other action, then now you work it out on how it can be wiped off.
Thank you. Acknowledge that that was a mistake, right? So apologize profusely because maybe you have, definitely, once you spill water, maybe people are wondering and what could be the matter. So apologize as you seek for help for someone to come and help you with that matter. So with that, I'd like to end this session. I have really enjoyed myself. You have been a wonderful class. So I'm sure the other two you're going to look at with Madam Owino, interpersonal communication and negotiation skills. From my end, I'd wish to thank you. And remember, the purpose of the SMC course is not just a paper for certificates, for the promotion, the certificate as evidence of promotion, but it is meant to transform and change how you conduct yourself. So I'd like to wish you the very best. Remember, you are now ambassadors of Kenya School of Government, so please represent us well. Thank you very much. Madam Magolo, do you have any closing remarks before I hand the session back to the President?
Thank you very much for that very lively discussion. And maybe one parting shot I could add, part of public service protocol and etiquette is also being aware of issues to do with the code of conduct. Some of your organizations also have certain conduct that is expected. So let's not forget that. And also abiding by ethics, values that are required of public servants. This is a very broad area that we can't cover in the 2 hours. And as you have seen, time is up. We could have covered interpersonal communication, but allow us to stop there because of time, so that we don't inconvenience those who had must go. Otherwise, we wish you the best. And as my colleague has said, let this not be just a paper, because so many people have done senior management course. So many issues have been covered, but the president complains still performance is not where it should be. Governors complain, and it makes a mockery of learning when this is just a paper for you to get promoted. Let it count, if not for yourself, for the people of this country, the Wanjiku and Otieno out there who have nobody to speak for them. Otherwise, we wish you well. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Over to you, Mr. President. We hand the session back.
Thank you so much, Madam Fatma and Madam Helen Magolo.
I think we can't hear you. Go ahead, class president.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Helen and Fatma, for your very able presentation. Actually, Fatma is putting into practice presentation skills. You've given us a challenge. We know now what to do, hand gestures and all that. We have two take homes. Do it in moderation, in etiquette, knowledgeability, and know what you are supposed to do as a senior manager. We're going to practice that as we even continue with the class. To the participants, I think this was a makeup class that we all agreed on due to the situation we had last week. And now we're going to resume to the normal Monday 2 to 4 p.m. classes. There won't be another Wednesday unless the situations necessitate such. And the coordinator told me we had one facilitator who did not come, Dr. Mumo, on Monday, and they're going to make time within the next sessions to do the areas that have not been covered. I think Dr. Mumo was to cover development, and Madam Elizabeth was to cover interpersonal communication and negotiation skills. Otherwise, I take this opportunity to thank you. And I see the Vice President is still online. She close up for us so that we can go to other engagements. Madam Deputy President.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the session, Madam Helen and Madam Fatma. That was very insightful. I'm sure we have a lot to learn. For the participants, so thank you. And next time, make sure you log in and you're present, that you're not called and patikani. Otherwise, I wish you all the best in your research. We meet on Monday. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you and good evening.